thought I would be so cool when I printed.
I think the only thing I printed was the two new options, I guess, or maps. Should be maps.
You taking us home, Nathan?
Call to order at 6 p.m. Item 2, roll call. William Burke. And Valerie Garcia. And Henry Munoz.
Here.
Casey McKeon. Here. Vanessa Navarrete.
Here?
Tiffany Rowell. And I'm present. Item number 3, Pledge of Allegiance.
Is that on already? Oh, okay. I didn't see it make a move.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'm curious, do I have to go look?
Okay,
Yes, it's on.
okay, sorry.
I just thought you would.
It just says town hall, it doesn't say which room, so.
Hello. Item number 4, consent agenda. Pursuant to section 246B, matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the chairperson will ask whether any members of the council request any item be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion. 1, minutes of regular session, minutes from June 27, 2019.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. Item number 5, new business. A discussion / possible action concerning annexation study and possible changes to the map.
I have spoken to, 2 of the residents up on our Arboretum Way, who are very strong natives, and they were the largest dollar value ones. So, and I believe you spoke to someone?
I spoke to the Blakes and they were a no as well.
So, I think that rather than fight that, we could just redraw the line so it goes down Arboretum Way, the old highway, and then take them out. I suggest while we're doing that, we also draw lines around the Hill House and the mansion. Those were both, right now, they're state properties and they'd have to go to the state for approval. And the Board of Regents has put the Hill House up for sale, so that could transition in the middle of the annexation. And they are asking $450,000, so it could throw the vote count off and everything else, so it's better just to pull it out, that way it doesn't mess up our annexation.
I spoke with Danny Alexander yesterday and he said, I know. He said, actually, he doesn't even stay there anymore, so.
Say person X buys the Hill House and they go, oh, I want to be a part of the town, after the annexation
We
takes
can do it
place.
under annexation for just that property.
Yeah, and I guess that wouldn't be too hard because it would just be, erasing lines, drawing a straight line in front of their property.
Yeah, it should be easier. You have to wait 45 days after one annexation to do another, but that's.
Okay. But to get this one pushed through, it's easier just to take
Was
take
the
them out.
Old Compost Rock Shop, that house, was it sold? I heard it was sold, possibly gonna be a charter school.
I had heard
Did
that,
you hear that?
I heard it was being rented, but it's all
rented?
hearsay at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. That, yeah, I heard the same, similar rumor. So, I'm
sure.
if it changes hands theoretically, it could change its valuation, but it's already got a fairly high valuation, so.
Which property is that?
It's called the Old Compost Rock Shop. It's one of the 2 houses next to the Roses. It's a newer houses, it's the one that's been redone. Yeah, that house. Supposedly. Turned it into a charter school. That's just rumor.
I heard it, that was the motel, the old motel by Los Hermanos.
No, this is redone.
So I'm gonna send a letter to those residents next week, or letting them know we're removing them from consideration, so they don't
stress
rapid.
over it, then, yeah. Not that they were stressed, but fight
Yeah,
us.
yeah, we'd rather do some other consideration. It makes Amherst much more important. They're most of the remaining valuation. It's, the remaining valuation is $1.3 million, and they are $1 million of it. So they don't sign on, there is no annexation, unless we redraw the map below the Castleberry. That takes the entire road area out of the map. And that's, our goal is to have the road area in the map. So I'm still negotiating with Emirates. They're under a little pressure right now, so it's hard to tell what's going to happen from that, but I'll continue moving forward on that. But in the immediate, if the committee directs me to, I will prepare a revised map that takes out those properties we talked about.
So you just need a motion?
I need a motion.
So I move to revise the annexation map to remove the properties north of Arboretum Way, and also would it be the castle?
Castle.
The castle,
And the-
and the Hill House.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, discussion on progress of wayfinding sign contest to name the town center.
I would request that we just put this on back burner for a little while. I think that the branding study is progressing, and that may tie into the wayfinding, and there's a little bit of hot head in the water right now, and I think let it calm down for a little while, and then go after a public process. I don't think there's a rush on it. We don't have the funding to do a total study of it, but we have the money for branding study, so.
Okay.
It's just a discussion item, I don't need an action item, but I'm not planning to put forward the contest anytime soon.
Okay, well, I guess you'll let us know when you're ready to pick it back up.
I will do that, and I appreciate your patience with me. Last item is discussion about, oh, sorry, Nathan.
Item C, discussion / possible action assigning community development committee members to the RFQ review committee for the multi-gen architects.
I'd like you guys to select somebody, the contract says that you are the people in charge of the contractual arrangement with Resolution Copper for this project, so we need to have a few members at least from the committee do ratings. And there's 4 proposals, and they all look like to be.
Is that the email you sent?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I attached the PDFs to every of them to it as well, so you should have that information digitally if you want.
Okay.
The rating sheet was also attached, and I have print copies here, if whoever selected for the committee would like to take them with them. And I just need volunteers and then a motion to approve them from the committee.
And these are potential architectural firms.
Architectural firms, and they're going to be, it was a design build RFQ, which means they will be the project manager for the entire project.
So these are their actual proposals and where you need committee members to rate them.
Yes.
That's,
It has a scoring
Okay,
sheet
so-
here,
okay.
and you just, you have to go through and rate them on each of these factors for each of the proposals.
Okay.
I've done a couple of the ratings, and then, but, like, for instance, all you need is those ratings, period. You don't want any other comments, in other words.
Not really, no.
Okay,
Then
just
we'll-
those
then we'll- we will, as a committee, get together and decide if we want to interview any of the people.
Okay.
And then we will call them in, talk to them about it, and you maybe rate the interview, and then we'll select somebody.
Okay. I just thought it was important to pick one that had done some remodeling of existing buildings, because that's a large part of our project.
There's some,
New builds are, I think, a little bit different.
And you know, another point too, I thought is find out if anybody's had any litigation against them on designs and finding somebody who's actually trouble-free, you know what I mean, having no issues.
they definitely, calling of references and items like that, that was something the committee would be doing. So we're looking for a subcommittee, really, of people to Svetlana, the town engineer, has also already done her ratings, and I've asked the mayor to give me a set of ratings, so we just need a few members from this committee to round up.
And I was interested that I didn't notice, unless they use a different name, the Davis Foundation.
They did not
Didn't
oppose.
have an RFQ, wow.
They sent me an email saying that they did not have enough experience with federally funded programs.
Got it, okay, I was really expecting one from them, so.
Yeah, it's the problem is USDA funding is used through the project to balance out all the revenue sources. Hopefully we won't end up with much of a balance on that at the end, but if it's a reimbursement grant and you have to pay the money out it's $1 million, we don't have that money in the bank, so we get the USDA grant loan, we put the money in the bank, we use that to pay all the bills, and those grants come in, we pay back the USDA, whatever balance is left at the end is what our debt service is.
How much money is resolution given toward this?
$2 million.
2 million? Is that 2 million in payments or?
200,000 the first year, 250,000 the first year, and then I think it's 600 or 800 the second year, 600 the second year, and then 1.2 the last year. And don't quote me on those, those are right.
And is this money guaranteed to say if something happened at the corporate level to where you weren't able to fulfill it?
It's guaranteed in the contract, it is a contract, but it does have a performance requirement. We do have to have the USD money in place at 2 years in order to get the 1.2. So that loan through USDA is important. It is a grant loan combination, which we're going to get Colonial money, we're going to get, they have a community facilities grant, they have a 30,000 because it's part of our capital improvement plan with CAG. They have, and the rest of that would be a loan, but we also have it was going to be 500,000, but it's not, it's going to be 300,000 for our community development block grant money we can use for the parking lot. So we're trying to add up different grant sources so we get that entire $2 million match. Again, the USDA money is going to help balance that out. So if we apply for grants and they're reimbursement or they have matches, we have the money to make that happen.
Does that mean that we're not still actively looking for resources?
Oh no, we were definitely.
I mean, the goal is not to have to, I mean, ideally, we don't want the USDA at all, right? But
Understood. That's our fallback
that's our
position.
fallback.
Yeah, there are library grants that we could be looking into. There's community health grants for the exercise equipment. There's a lot of grants. We talked to Reed about maybe taking on some of those grants. If not, we can contract with CAG to do as many grants as we want. We just have to identify sources for them. The programmatic grants are a little easier than the actual brick and mortar grants. So, what we have to be very clear with any of these contractors is that the budget sets the project, not the project setting the budget. So we don't want scope creep, we don't want bloat.
Yeah.
We want a $4 million project that will, and the design needs to fall on that $4 million.
So it sounds like Tiffany has kind of already volunteered.
Yeah, I'll definitely look at the other two. I just tend to want to give my little opinion outside of those questions.
And the committee can.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like you can, because it
Yeah.
sounds like whoever's on the committee is also going to help select. So to me, that's part of the selection process.
And you'll meet, you'll do the interviews, you will have a meeting afterwards, you'll go over the ratings, you'll go over the interviews, you will select your proposed winner. It'll come to this committee will say, yes, this is who we want, and it goes to full council and they'll approve the contract.
I mean, I could help it, I can do it as well. Just didn't know if anybody else wanted to.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
3.
I didn't know if I'm doing it, just on the committee's behalf.
I think that, yeah, the subcommittee could be as many as you want, but when you have, if you get over 4, it's a quorum, and it's an actual committee meeting. So 3 is pretty much the max.
Three's good. Unless you want to do something.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay, I was gonna say.
No, I'm fine. Put my finger in too many places.
So Todd, pursuant to what you were saying, I was with Don Irby all day today, and he was saying, he was talking about housing, not a project like this. But he said contractors don't want to deal with the USDA because of the way you're paid.
Well, USDA, what you do for this sort of project is you go out and you get a bridge loan, they have a bunch of banks that specifically operate with USDA, and you get your funding directly from them. USDA only carries the paper when the project's done. So if we have paid off all that money with loans before it transitions to a USDA loan, then we don't have a USDA loan. But it's USD guaranteed bridge loan. So the banks, aren't gonna lose. And generally, we can go interest only for the period when we're actually financing, and just pay the interest on the loan until we're done. So it is feasible to use their funding. Any government money you use jacks the price up. Like for instance, we don't want to use our community development block grant money for anything that's directly tied to the project. So that's why it's talking about the parking lot, because if you use USDA for part of the project, or CDBG for part of the project, you have to apply Davis-Bacon wages to the entire project. And that gets ridiculous.
I noticed that was crossed out.
Yes, because it
That's
was
on
used,
purpose.
this is, USDA reviewed the RFQ. And USDA said they wanted to leave that in to make it clear they did not have to meet Davis-Bacon.
Oh,
Because
nice,
USDA
that's
doesn't
why
have
it was, okay.
So that's just, USDA did vet this entire RFQ to make sure it met their standards. And whoever prepares the architectural design is gonna have to prepare a preliminary architectural report for USDA so they can fund the total project. So that's part of the deliverables for the project. That's why some of them are leery of doing it, because you have to be familiar with USDA's preliminary architectural report.
Right.
But we still got 4 good applicants, so I'm actually fairly pleased. We don't always get this one.
So do you need an action on this one?
You need to appoint people and read it in the record so we know exactly who it is.
Who?
You gotta do a motion, somebody's gotta do a motion to approve.
Make a motion that we go ahead and approve the 3 individuals that were identified to sit on the committee to review architecture.
Arlene, do you know who that is?
I have Tiffany, Vanessa, and Casey.
Second.
That was a tie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, summary of current events. Committee members.
Well, I just wanted to bring up the fact that in Bloomberg News, there was an article talking about possibly a big ore find in Australia. I guess one of the chief operating officers from Rio Tinto had made a statement that possibly, depending on the find there, they might put this project on the back burner, so to speak. That's why I was talking about if the monies were there, guaranteed,
Yeah.
then we'd have any problems, because these big companies, they tend to change their mind at the snap of a finger. You get that phone call and it's pack up your stuff and you're gone. And my concern was that the money would be there, that we would get too far into this project to where resolution might say, hey, you know what? They're cutting our funding source out over here, they're having issues in Mongolia. That's what my concerns is. We're going into this project, which I believe is gonna be a great project. I just don't wanna get caught in the middle with the funding sources to where we have to halt something because we don't have that.
We're a little out of the order for the agenda, but let me answer that, because one of the nice parts about the way the contract's written is they give us the money up front.
It's good. Yeah, and that was my concern, upfront money.
And the big payment, the 1.2, is before construction starts. So if we don't have the money in the bank, if we don't have our USDA loan, if the project dies in 2 years. So
2 years?
yeah.
It's got a 2 year limit.
Basically, updates for the chamber, Prickly Pear Festival coming up, it's a 1-day event. That's about all I can think of with the
Lots of
chamber.
action with that, a lot of activity.
Well, you know Todd White, he's a rebuild board member. He owns the old fire station on Magma. He's kind of taken over that and chairing the project basically, and he has some really, really good ideas. Some of them are going to be for in the future because there's a large dollar amount attached. But it's kind of exciting to have a new person come in and show some leadership skills and take over that event. And next year he wants to turn it back into a 2-day event. The chamber board did not approve that for this year. A little too last minute, you know, so maybe for next year, we'll see. But, and I don't know if this is out of order either, but I was wondering if, do we have an update on the park project of that US 60?
US 60 park, yes, the US 60 park is out for RFQ.
It is, okay,
We haven't got the proposals in yet, so it's not.
okay,
we're doing
we're
that.
still there, okay.
The youth leadership committee are the ones that are gonna have to select the final project on that.
Yeah.
So what we discussed, but we'll bring it back here as well.
Great.
The other one is for the swimming pool park, it's still pending, we're waiting for CAG to complete it. We're in final draft right now, and it'll be posted as soon as it's done. So, both the playgrounds. The EIC has also been posted, consultant for that, which is another thing that this committee is in charge of.
Remind me of what EIC is.
Enterprise and Innovation Center,
Oh, yeah, of course, okay.
so that's directly.
It's been called so many different things, that, yeah,
It's the incubator.
yeah, exactly, business incubator and all sorts of, okay, that,
But that's, we have, I think, 5 pending RFQs right now, so it's gonna be a little busy.
yeah, exciting.
Optimus has their, Magma Royale fundraiser next weekend, the 3rd.
Is it
wow.
that, really?
Yep.
I still bought my tickets, I gotta get on that.
Mhm.
You won't get extra dollars.
I don't know.
And you gotta dress up.
All right.
Anything else?
School, you ready for
Back to
school?
school. Yeah.
Thursday.
On the thing with Emrys, the Forest Service Trail, Emrys, and myself are gonna go look at it on Tuesday.
Excellent.
For the Berlin?
No,
Oh, sorry.
no, it's to look at see what they say, possible alternate routes.
The town has a meeting with Neil Jensen in a week, so we're gonna discuss it. We discussed it with our legislative representatives as well.
I forgot to ask the due date for the RFQ reviews.
End of the month,
I think we need them.
Into this month?
Into this month, yes.
like 5 days, 4 days?
We can be a little more flexible on that. That would be a nice date, but if you have another week after that, so let's do it a
All
week
right,
and
just end of the month.
And so we do our individual ratings.
yes.
At what point do we need to meet? Do we, as a subcommittee?
Yeah, we have to meet, as soon as all the ratings are done, we have
All
one
ratings are-
collected, we'll meet and we select people for interview, and then we'll have to call and arrange the interviews.
Okay.
So you can interview all of them, or one of them, or, it's up to the
Any more questions?
Item number 7, scheduling of next meeting, community development committee meeting, August 22nd, is canceled.
No, but that's, August is conference month, all the councilmen are out, so it'll be hard to get a club.
Item,
Or can 3 of us
All
get together?
together? Yeah.
Well-
Have 4.
So regarding this, you mean, like as a subcommittee, I am gone because I'm at the conference that,
Wow.
yeah, that whole week is shot.
Hopefully they do it up in the mountains or something.
It's Tucson.
Oh,
Word. Thank you. Any U of A fans here?
it's hot, it's just as hot there. I was thinking maybe you'd get a retreat away
No,
from
no,
it.
we're around here.
Maybe Nathan, they have trying to convert him still.
So the meeting's not happening in August.
No, the subcommittee can meet at some point in August and arrange to have their interviews, they don't have to meet on a regular meeting date, we can meet anytime for a virtual group.
Okay. So do we schedule now for September?
Yes, it's the same, it's the third Thursday, it's your fourth
Yeah, the
Thursday.
19th.
But as a subcommittee, should we meet sooner than that?
I would suggest it, if you get the ratings done, as soon as you get all the ratings done and collected, it's about time to have a meeting to discuss it and call in for interviews. I'd like to have the contracts ready for the council by the September meeting, if we got really lucky, but more likely it's gonna be October.
I mean, I can meet
What do you guys think of conference calls?
What did everybody do before phones?
I know.
Oh, they
Have a
paper.
day plan. I still live by my day plan.
I just would use a paper calendar.
Nah.
I don't use
I
this.
saw a movie the other day where they still had the Rolodex, the detective, and he's looking for that phone number. And I told my wife, remember those songs? Yeah.
Even the week before, if we get them done by the end of next week, I mean, I'm good the week of the 5th as well, so. You guys tell me.
I think that week of the 12th might be better for me.
No, but we can give you our wish list then for the interviews.
Yeah.
What did you say? The
Week of the 12th would be better for me than the week of the 5th.
I could easy do 12th and 13th, or 13th, I guess we might not need both days. Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm doing 13th.
The 13th is fine. We're gonna lock you in before you
Yeah.
tell us no.
Tuesday, it depends on what time on Tuesdays for me. It couldn't be late in the evening.
I could do as early as 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
What about you? At
Uh,
5?
I can leave work early.
When
No, if
said-
you guys say 2, I'll,
Well, I mean, I can go.
well, what's the,
I could
what's
do
the-
evening I could do evening any other day, mid week.
But on the 13th I can make it, but what's like you say, you're not good in the evening, so from what point on are you not
Like,
good?
if I could be done by 6,
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
so if we made it 5,
I mean,
would
we
that be
need
better
it,
for you?
is 4 too late for you?
4's good.
4, okay,
Good.
4 o'clock,
If you guys do it during the day, that's great, because then I can include Svetlana.
okay.
So can you make a note, tell Svetlana that we do it?
So the 13th at 4 for the subcommittee, okay.
Here? Is that okay?
Yeah, regular one.
Any more questions?
Item number 8, adjournment.
I move to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 6:27.
All right, if we do get started on this, get ready for the public hearing roundtable churn. It has charrettes and everything tied up in it, so
We'll be having all sorts of meetings.